Okay, welcome back, everybody. How the hell are you guys? It's been a while, huh?
Been a minute.
Yeah.
Do you guys want? Do you guys think you need to introduce yourselves again? I think you're all kind of semi celebrities by this point. But
I don't
if
know about
you
that.
guys just want to jump in and introduce yourself, how about you go first, Vidalia?
All right, I'm Vidalia, Seinfeld fan. I was rooting for Seinfeld Costanza for 20, but didn't go my way. It's all right.
Right in.
Well, at least a lot of people were happy with the results of 20.
Yeah, well, I was too actually.
Yeah. What's up, Matt? How the hell are you?
Great. I'm Matthew. Known Jesse for more than half my life.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. It's our whole lives at this point, because that's really life starts when you start playing Little League baseball, man.
There you go.
Yeah. And Alicia.
Hey, it's me. I'm back.
Back. Oh, go ahead. Were you still talking?
No, I was gonna say, where to start? I have had my last name for longer than I've had my previous last name. So does that count? I've known you longer than that. So more than half my life.
Yeah. So we've all known each other for a very long time.
Forever.
I think we're gonna keep knowing each other, fortunately or unfortunately. I don't know at this point. For the rest of our lives.
We might go to fisticuffs today. We'll see.
I don't know. I don't think so, because I think top 5 Seinfeld episodes. This was not going to be easy, and I know a long time ago, Alicia was like, "Can we just do top 10?" And I was like, "No."
It kicked my ass. It did.
Yeah, and I thought
Top
like
20. I mean, we could do top 50. Stuff, this was tough. 5 is hard.
I think, like nowadays when shows try to go like, what Seinfeld go 10 seasons, 9 seasons?
9.
9.
I think nowadays when shows try to go 9 seasons, I'm done with them after like the 3rd or 4th season. And I think that what made Seinfeld so great is that it was a show about nothing. So it's not like, oh, they broke up again, oh, they're back together again, oh, like they weren't trying to string us along with some dopey story that was just so unbelievable, like, oh, Ross and Rachel broke up, oh, Ross and Rachel were dating to begin with. Like, it was just also unbelievable, right? But like Seinfeld, we didn't worry about that, because like we knew where they were, like we knew what they all meant to each other. And like, but what they did have was like these great callbacks, right? Because like I was watching an episode and like and one of the side things of the show was like Jerry sent George to go get invitations, and then Jerry says, "Hey George," and don't, he's like, "Yeah, I know." So like, and that's like a great callback to like the previous season. What was your guys' relationships with this show? I think Matt, you said something in the chat, right? You and your brothers.
Oh yeah, like it was must see. It really was must see TV, and like my whole family would watch Seinfeld and call each other up during the commercials. Did you see George do that? Are you watching? So I made sure to give my brother Mike's top 5 as well. I got it from him.
All right, great.
It didn't seem right to me to do this without it.
Yeah, we'll make sure and get Mike's in when we do right before we do our number ones. Yeah, I used to. I remember at one point, I was still working at the warehouse, and I would have to work, but I would take my lunch at 9 and drive over to Teddy and Alicia's house, who lived like 3 blocks away from the store, and I would get there in time, and then I would leave, and I would get to watch like 25 minutes of the episode and be like a minute late from lunch. And it was just like you said, it was must see TV Thursday. Was it the same for you guys, ladies?
Yeah,
absolutely.
You mentioned that some nowadays, like, people lose interest after the 3rd season. That's when Seinfeld got good. Like, that's when it hit fever pitch. And it was, I used to love how horrible they were but it was so funny. You know what I mean? It was so funny, but they're awful people, but they're so funny. You know, they were so funny. And some of the stuff was so relatable because all of us are petty, whether you want to admit it or not. You're petty. We're all petty. So like, it was so relatable, even though there were these people we were, living in a place totally different from where we live, Bakersfield, totally different. But it was just, I don't know, it was just so so great, so funny. I love those episodes where they reference something previously. Like one, I know we haven't gotten to our list, but one on my list, I was like, oh, that's a reference to that one other episode. Oh my God, I love that about this show, and how all the episodes, a lot of times, things that were so random somehow came back together again. This is the first show where I really was like, writers are magical. That's what that is. The writing, how do they even do that? It was like, kind of mind blown to me. So I just, I can't overstress how much I love the show. So good.
Alicia, how much did you love the show?
Well, my husband super loves this show so much that he DVRs it. And it's so crazy because it comes on literally every day at any hour of the day on any given channel. So he's just crazy like that. But he always wants to make sure he's got a backup plan for if he can't find anything on the hundreds of channels that we have on DirecTV, then he can watch a Seinfeld at any given moment. But I also had his birthday planned before the pandemic last year, and I had ordered this glorious Seinfeld cake, and we were going to do like decorations and go all out and like theme it out. And then we decided not to have a party, and his two parents came over and just hung out in the backyard with us. And that was it. But I took pictures of the cake and it's lovely. But what I was going to say with regard to what Vidalia was saying was, as we were going through Hulu and looking at the seasons and the episodes, and I was just kind of picking apart the ones that I wanted to refresh myself on, because I've probably seen every episode like 10 times over.
Yeah.
What happened was I was noticing, like, in particular, of season 5 or season 8 was really strong. But as it progressed, the writing was always like tantamount. Like it was phenomenal. Whoever they had at that particular season, that they were like boom, boom, boom. They were on fire. That group of writers, you know what I mean? So as it progressed, it got so much better. And like Jesse was saying, it wasn't ever about nothing. So it was always, they were going to take that particular show wherever because they could. Mm-hmm. It didn't have to.
Down by things.
Yeah. So it was, I mean, we've always watched it here at home. We watch it in syndication. Like I said, it's on the DVR right now. But it was hard. What I had to like pare down my list, like the 3 things that I had, like it had to be all storylines were strong, because there was always the main storyline, a sub storyline, and a sub storyline. So if all 3 of those points were met and they were all strong, that's the only way that I could narrow it down. Because sometimes you would have a really strong and then like 2 really weak subplots, or you would have a strong one and then a semi-strong one, and then the other one was kind of lame. So it had to meet all those criteria for me to make my top 5. Otherwise I couldn't. You know
what I did? What I did is like I went to Hulu. And have you guys seen the way they have this categorized on Hulu? Like, oh my goodness. And so what I did is I went to Hulu and I scrolled through every season. And the one that I said, oh, I want to watch that one right now. Like that was in my brain for one reason or another. And I couldn't, there's so many instances, there's a few instances on my list where I picked an episode because of one thing, but didn't realize that it also contained this and this.
Something else. I know.
Right? That Alicia just mentioned. And I was like, oh, that's this episode too. Because I remember like in one thing, I was like, okay, I'm not going to do it. And then that's a subplot of this episode.
I connected somehow. So I watched it when it was on TV, and then before the era of Hulu and, what we have now, were the DVDs. So I bought all of the seasons back in the day.
Wow.
They're storage right now because I don't even have a DVD player anymore, but they're storage. But I watched all of the episodes, but then I watched all of the interviews, where they would talk about what was happening. And some of that stuff was as funny as the actual episode itself. And so it really, like, immediately when we talked about doing this, first episode that popped into my head was one of those where I remember them talking about it and laughing, so they couldn't get through the interview about the episode because they were laughing so much about talking about how they recorded it and how it came together. So it's just, I don't know, it's so many levels. There are so many levels to this, and that's such an overused term, which I feel gross saying that, but there's just so many layers.
There is. I think like layers is in my notes. And here's one thing I want to ask is, like, how sad were you when Seinfeld ended? Because when Seinfeld ended, it really changed the way I watch TV going forward. Like, Vidalia brought up The Office last night, and she said we should do The Office next. But because I was so heartbroken when Seinfeld ended,
you didn't watch it,
and I loved The Office so much, I didn't let myself fall for The Office the way I did for Seinfeld. And I kind of like, I go back to The Office, like when there's absolutely nothing that I can find on TV to watch, I'll go to The Office, and there's still brand new episodes of The Office for me that I've never seen. And so I kind of hope that like that lasts for the rest of my life. Like, there's got to still be something to look forward to on TV, because I don't know what else. Was The Office must-see TV Thursday too? What's
Yeah.
It was?
It was at the end. It started out on Tuesday, though, I believe.
Oh.
Okay. I had the same relationship and reaction to The Office as you do, Jesse. I've watched the whole thing after, in syndication, or actually online on Netflix or wherever it's on. I've seen it, but I did not fall in love with, I did not buy any DVDs of The Office. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like that. It's just a great show. But yeah, there's just nothing. To me, Seinfeld is number one. It's just number one to me personally.
Well, when Seinfeld ended, I thought I was never going to like another comedy again. And I just threw myself into sci-fi TV, stuff like that. And then I kind of watched a little bit of season 1 of The Office, but then season 2, it's like, you know what? I think I can like comedy again.
I think I can love again.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I enjoy The Office when I have dropped in and visited an episode consistently. But have I ever watched like all the episodes? No. I don't even know if I've seen one start to finish, because I'll get up and then I have to do something and then I'll come back. But I do enjoy it. I like it. Can't say that I don't. I think I was up to my elbows in diapers. I don't know when it came out, but yeah,
me too.
That might be who loves The Office, like knows every episode at the back of her hand, mine and Alicia's friend's daughter. So Ava, Rita's daughter Ava, and will send me random Office memes, and is always down for an episode of The Office. She loves The Office.
I could see that. That's funny.
Yeah. She's right. Can anyone, so like right before we jump in, can anyone remember what was the must-see TV lineup when Seinfeld was like full for? I know it wasn't always identical, but it was like Friends, Seinfeld.
No, there was an 8:31. Seinfeld was at 9. So there was, I think, the 8:30 spot used to change a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wow, we're old.
Maybe Wings.
Oh, Wings.
I never
Wings
watched
Wings.
Was Frasier around back then? Frasier?
Tuesday, wasn't it?
Oh, okay.
Wings was Tuesday.
I think Frasier was Tuesday.
Dude,
yeah,
Wings was a great show too.
Wings was freaking awesome. Me and Jose used to watch that all the time after we put the kids to bed. We would just sit there and cackle. It's my favorite. I love that.
Yeah,
that's
Wings,
a good one.
Wings is a great show. All right, are you guys ready to jump in? Top 5 Seinfeld episodes, and this was not easy. And like I said, I think I ended up in the end just I do have a favorite. I wasn't even worried about the 1, 2, 3 order. But
Yeah, me either.
I did know what I wanted to be number one because I just think it's significant in a way of like writing and character development that I think was really important during the Seinfeld era. So we'll get to that when we get to it. But yeah, let's just jump in. Matt, you want to start us off?
Yeah.
Yay.
I'm not ready. Hold on. Wait, I thought I was ready, but I'm not. Hold on.
All right.
He never starts.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. I'm ready. I'm ready for it though.
I think I had a mental note of that. I can't. Or
So,
I always try to like mentally. I always try to go like ladies first, you know. But where's the lady? No, I'm just kidding. All right,
Ah,
Whatever.
Well,
Matt, what do you got at your number 5?
when I first started watching, my first time through Seinfeld, I knew they were all bad people, but I didn't realize, how bad some of them were, and George was such a liar, and it really hit me finally in this round of viewing it. And he says it all the time that he lies, but it never really hit me until this last month or so watching episodes. But my favorite lie was of George's is the marine biologist.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
When he tells like he's a marine biologist and just out of nowhere walking along the beach, they're like, we need a marine biologist, and
it comes to kick him in the ass. The sea was angry that day, my friend.
He was angry, my friend.
Yeah. And then Kramer had to be hitting golf balls, which was the throwaway. You don't think anything of it that he's hitting golf balls in the ocean. But then, that last scene where George pulls out that golf ball.
I thought I had
was
like this.
So that was what I was talking about, the writing, like how random and how it comes back together. Like, oh my goodness. How
And
they
he tells Jerry, like, why couldn't you say I was an architect? I always wanted to be an architect.
No,
What
I
do I do with marine
biology?
biologists? Yeah, he's like, and then he's walking along the beach with her and he goes, oh, an octopus, it doesn't have a nose, but it has a little bone there, where it used to have a nose. Like he knows all these random, like he was studying or something. What a jackass, man.
marine biologist. Marine biologist is one of my also rans. Oh man. Okay, gosh, we already started off marine biologist. All right. Alicia, how about you next, lady?
Okay. When my daughter asked my husband, because we didn't give him like, oh, give us your top 5, because we would have sat there forever. So he just blurted out 2 episodes that came to mind. I put them both on my list, but this was the first one that came out of his mouth. And on a rewatch, I would have to agree because, like I said, all the 3 plots and subplots were really good. But it was the Jimmy.
The Jimmy.
The
Jimmy,
is so good. Yes.
If you remember, was the guy that would refer to himself at the gym in the third person, and he got those crazy shoes that he would practice training in, and then he gave a pair to Kramer, who was walking around Manhattan with those stupid shoes on and drooling because his mouth was numb from having been to Tim Watley's dental office, and gets into the car with the guy from the handicap association that Elaine's going to this fundraiser, and he thinks he's mentally retarded because he's drooling and he's wearing these stupid shoes. So he gets invited to that charity event that Elaine's going to, that she doesn't have a date with for, and she wants the Jimmy to take her. Well, then I think Kramer had been in the locker room and he was drooling everywhere, getting all over the floor, and Jimmy slips and hurts like he breaks his leg or something, falling over Kramer's drool. So now there's a vendetta and everybody's in like this hubbub. But the main point that I had forgotten was the part where George is sweating from the Kung Pao. That was in this episode, and I had completely forgotten it was this episode. So they asked him where this missing equipment Yeah, where the missing equipment is. And he says he doesn't know because he was sweating from having worked out with the Jimmy. And then when he's approached a second time, he's sweating because he just had Kung Pao chicken. And he's like, George, you're sweating. I think you're guilty. So we, oftentimes Jose will say he's sweating from the Kung Pao if he's like had a hot chili or something. We refer to that all the time. And then there was also a subplot about their dental friend, Tim Watley, how they would go into the office and it had Penthouse magazines all over the waiting room. And then they put him under the nitrous oxide and he wakes up and he's groggy and he sees everybody putting their clothes back on.
Yes. Yeah, he didn't know if something was happening in the
and all of that was in this episode. And it was so great because at the end, very little is said. And Kramer is just his face is doing his acting. Mel Torme is singing to him, and I was cracking up. I couldn't stop laughing at Kramer's damn faces because he would point at him and he's singing "Smile, Smile," blah blah blah, whatever that line is, and he's just like looking at it all crazy. But anyway, so I've gone on too long, but that was my number 5.
No, that's good. That's good. The Jimmy. Vidalia, what is your number 5?
Like you, I didn't really put them in order like that, but the one I'm going to begin with is the pick.
The pick. Wait, which one's that?
The Christmas cards.
Oh.
Is it the picture?
No. The pick. So Jerry is dating a model and she sees him. She's in like her limo or whatever, her car, and he's in his, and he's scratching his nose, but she thinks that he's picking his nose. So she's like grossed out by him, and she like is giving him like not taking his calls or whatever. But she's a model, so she's she might be out working. But at the same time, subplot. At the same time, she is modeling for Calvin Klein for their perfume, the Ocean, which is an idea that Kramer had. And when he met with Calvin Klein, they laughed him out of they were like, no way, that's not going to work, in a previous episode. So then they took his idea, they stole it, they turned it into the Ocean and a perfume, and she was modeling for that. So Jerry storms off to find her at the modeling agency. Kramer goes along with him. Jerry has this exchange with her at the elevator, and that's where he has that. When Jerry would talk and he would his voice would get like squeaky. It's so good, and he's like, "I am not an animal." Like that's the thing, because she thinks that he picked his nose, And meanwhile, Kramer is talking to Calvin Klein about the idea that the fact that they stole his idea, and that's when he becomes a model. They look at him, and he comes out, and he's like, "Wait a minute!" Comes out in his underwear, and they're like, his buttocks are exquisite or something. Like they're like, he's lean, and he's like modeling for them or whatever. So it was such a good episode. And it was one of those episodes where I remember laughing out loud watching this. So it was just so good. I just loved it.
Wasn't that also the Christmas card episode?
The Christmas card episode?
Didn't that also happen during the pick?
I don't remember that stuff. I just watched this the other day, but no, I remember maybe so, but I remember the pic with the model, and where Kramer took Elaine's photo and her nipple shows. I think that's right.
Yeah.
I watched a whole bunch of episodes. I think that's right. Yes, where her nipple is showing in the Christmas card. I think you're right about that. Yes.
Hey, Nip.
So yes. So good. So good.
Oh man. Okay.
So that's what I'm starting with. The pick.
Let's see. Okay, so my number 5, like I don't know, it's one of my favorite episodes, and like, there's so many subplots. The subplots of this one are the close talker, the Seinfelds don't like the Costanzas.
Oh, yeah.
But it's the raincoats episode.
Mm-hmm.
where they want to sell back. He's gonna make all this money, but he's gonna go to Paris, right? And then he wants the raincoat shipped to him, so he calls back home to Florida, and the guy's like, "What raincoats? Those are garbage. You gotta get anything for those." And he cuts his and then George gets volunteered for the Big Brothers thing, and then he ends up wanting to take the little kid to Paris. There's so many subplots to it, but I don't even know where to start with this episode. So much goes on, but I think it's but what made it important to me that it brings up like the parents are so important in some of the episodes. And to find out that the Seinfelds don't like the Costanzas, they're like, oh no, yeah, right. And then she's like, but I made all this paella.
Yes. Oh.
These are their bums. So the raincoats is my number 5.
Hey, wasn't the close talker Judge Reinhold?
The close talker was Judge Reinhold.
Right.
And he
takes the parents out.
Yeah, he takes the parents out to the zoo. Oh, yeah. Like, I could have done more.
Yeah.
The raincoats is my number 5.
So good.
Matt, what is your number 4?
My number 4 is The Voice. The one where Jerry's got his belly button voice for his girl. Hello, la la la.
No.
I still have some friends and we say hello like that. You know, so that had staying power for me. And that's also the episode where Kramer had an intern for Kramerica Industries.
Oh my goodness!
So he had that guy following him around.
He's just taking notes.
You have a call from Mr. Seinfeld.
Please hold for Mr. Kramer.
Yeah. And then George had gotten caught at Play Now the episode before. He got caught faking being handicapped. And so
yes.
Where they hate him. Yeah.
Is that the one where they were chasing him, where the old people were chasing him in their little scooters and stuff?
Yeah, that's the episode before that.
The episode before.
My list. But
that episode leads into this one.
Yeah, and he sneaks into his office, and eventually sneaks. He's like, tell him I'll be in my office, because they boarded up his office so he couldn't get in.
Oh my goodness.
And that's also where Kramer had the idea for that oil bladder. And so him and that intern put oil inside a ball.
Oh, yes. I remember that. Yes.
Jerry's trying to warn his girlfriend, hello.
No,
and she thinks he's just doing the voice again, but he's not. He's trying to warn her. It's another one that comes full circle like that.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
I just realized right now, my whole list is really my favorite George episodes.
Interesting.
Yeah,
very interesting.
Yeah, that's all my favorite stuff that happened. That George was at the center of a bunch of it. So
he's so gross. Like, he's truly repugnant.
Yeah. He really is. He just has very no redeeming qualities about him. He just doesn't. But yeah.
Okay.
Wow. I tried going in like one episode featuring, each one of the 4.
I had to throw that theory out myself.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Alicia, what's your number 4?
Oh, this one I just saw like 2 weeks ago, and my daughter was walking through and sat down and watched it with me because whatever she saw was really, really funny. And so I started to explain to her, well, Elaine's really into this doctor, and the doctor told her that he thought that she was breathtaking.
Which daughter, older or younger?
Oh, yes.
My younger.
Okay. That just
my younger daughter.
Okay.
Yeah, Geneva. Yeah. So she sat there and watched it with me, and I was explaining to her because she had missed out on the front part. And I said, so then what just happened was that everybody saw Jerry's or George's girlfriend sunbathing topless. But anyway, it's the Hamptons. So
we're going to the Hamptons.
That's a good. Is that what he also calls the ugly baby breathtaking as well?
yes.
Yeah, and then
The baby.
The drinks baby.
You gotta come and see the baby.
See the baby.
Anytime, like
That's in that episode.
yes.
So
And
that's
then
the shrinkage episode.
the shrinkage.
It was cold.
And then Kramer was like stealing lobsters off of the
Yes.
lobster.
Yes.
And then he feeds them to Jerry's girlfriend.
They all have it for dinner. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's not supposed to have it.
And then one of the guests got really upset when he found out because his dad used to be a lobster trapper and he just went off on him about stealing the trapper's lobsters. But all of that was in that episode. And it's so funny because even to this day, if Jose and I see a baby that we think is less than attractive, he'll call it, oh my God, it's the Drake's baby. It's so mean, but he does do that. He's like, it's a Drake's baby. Don't look.
Seinfeld finds a way to let us be mean. It does.
Yes.
That was number 4 for me.
And because Kramer's reaction to the baby, he's just like, it's just like classic Kramer. Like he can't hide it. All right, okay.
Wow.
So it's breathtaking. Does that work? Okay.
It's called the Hamptons.
The Hamptons, yeah.
Yeah, the episode is the Hamptons. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Hamptons. Matt, what is your number? No, Vidalia, where are we? Vidalia, what is
oh man. The puffy shirt.
I
thought about that one.
I almost put that one, yeah.
So Kramer is dating
a low talker.
A low talker. You can barely hear it. And even with the closed caption on, it just says mumbles. So you never figure out what she's saying. So they're out to dinner. Kramer goes to the bathroom. And she's talking to Jerry and Elaine, and Jerry and Elaine are like, yeah, So unbeknownst to him, he agrees to wear her new design, which is a puffy shirt that looks like a pirate, because she's starting this whole pirate wear line. And so he's supposed to go on the Today Show to talk about helping the homeless for Elaine. So he has to wear this puffy shirt because all these orders came in for the puffy shirt based on him wearing it. This is also the episode where George is the hand model. He had to move in with his parents again, and they're like stressing him out about getting a job, about going and applying for the post office. And as it turns out, he meets somebody who, of course, is looking at his hands there, and turns out that has beautiful milky white
hands that have never seen the day of work.
Yeah. And so he becomes a hand model. So I love that episode. Another one where, of course, I feel like every episode, though, I just kind of laughed out loud. But Alicia, like my kids watch it with me too. When they see that it's on, they will sit down, even my youngest, who's 9, and they just crack up watching this show with me. So I love it.
They're idiots. All those characters. I mean, what's not to laugh at? So I think it appeals to all ages, really.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, my number 4, and so this is another one of the subplots, is like when I googled it searching Seinfeld the softball game, but it's the understudy.
Yes, I just saw that.
The one with Bette Midler? Rochelle.
Yeah, Jerry's dating Bette Midler's understudy. But it's also the one where Elaine is going to the Korean nail salon and they're talking about her. So Kramer says, well, why don't you take in a translator? And it's Mr. Costanza. He had an affair and he stops short with her.
he sees the nail tech who was the lady who he had an affair with long ago, right? And they're you, right?
He steals my move and stops short with her. And then but another great thing about this episode is that it's in this episode where Elaine meets Mr. Peterman when she's walking home.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes, so this is where we get to meet Mr. Peterman.
Mr. Peterman.
But it's the softball game where George takes out Bette Midler, sliding into home plate. Kramer is babying Bette Midler. There's so much stuff is going on in this episode. Like I couldn't believe that all of these were like just at the nail. Like the nail salon could be its own standalone episode.
Yeah.
When Bette Midler comes up to bat, George comes up to talk to Jerry. He's like, look at the way she's crowding the plate. Back a little bit, show her who's boss. And then Jerry's like, get out of here. And George slaps him on the ass and walks back behind the plate. And like George, like any great catcher, is talking shit during the at bat. He's all, went beneath my wings. Give me a break. And she says, why don't you get some talent? Then you can off. But I love Bette Midler, shocking. And I just season 6, episode 24, original air date, May 24th, 1995. I thought I'd throw in some of those to make it.
Oh my gosh. And wasn't that the one where his girlfriend cried over everything?
Yeah. But then they tell her grandma died, and she's like,
yeah.
Grandma died.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, the understudy is my number 4.
Oh man.
Are we
gonna come up with one comprehensive list?
I don't know. I don't think we're gonna have any crossovers. Or we might. I don't know. We might.
Definitely have at least one.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
Matt, what is your number 3?
Let me just say, there's a lot of season 9 in my list. That was a quality season.
Wow.
You can't say that for a lot of shows. They went out on top for sure.
Season 9, right?
Yeah. But this one is the episode after the one I just said. And I didn't even realize they're even in the same season when I went looking for them. But Serenity Now.
Serenity Now.
Yeah, where they're selling computers out of the garage. And he's got that other guy there. I forget who he is, but the parents like him more, and so George decides he's going to sell computers too because the other guy has his dad's approval, and they're having that competition. But that other guy wasn't really selling anything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Now insanity later. And then that's the same episode that Kramer takes the screen door and puts it on his apartment. And
It's Anytown USA.
Yeah, Anytown USA. You know, his fireworks show. He's got his sparklers out, and the neighborhood kids are giving him a hard time. So yeah, that's a great one for me. And another thing centered around the Costanzas.
Yeah. Oh man, I think there should be like some kind of a psychoanalysis test where like kind of like a Rorschach test, or what do they call that? Where like you reveal we're like revealing who your favorite Seinfeld character really is, like a personality trait.
Mm-hmm.
It tells all about you. About your worst qualities.
Yeah.
Everything with George has got me. George or his dad.
That's gonna be our life work. Oh man. Alicia, what do you have at your number 3?
Okay, this was also one that flew out of my husband's mouth quite readily, but is it any surprise that it has to do with baseball? It is The Boyfriend, the episode with Keith Hernandez.
Oh shit.
So this is the one where the magic loogie, the spittle that came out from, I don't know who the other player was, and it flew back and it hit so-and-so in this direction and that direction. They had the diagrams. That is what stands out the most for me, but it also had a subplot where Keith Hernandez started dating Elaine,
Mm-hmm.
and Jerry started getting jealous, and because he was thinking they had a bromance thing going on. So I haven't had a chance to watch it recently, but I've seen it. Like I said, I've seen it so many times, but I can't really be sure what the third subplot was. But it was all really, really one of the smartest episodes they probably wrote in that season for sure, but maybe of the whole show.
The other player is Roger McDowell.
Okay, I knew you'd know.
What does Newman yell to Keith Hernandez? Nice play, pretty boy. Is that what he says?
Yeah.
Pretty boy.
Pretty boy.
That when they reenact it in Jerry's apartment, and Jerry
That's some
like
movie. He's on turns and rotates in midair.
Of course.
Oh my God, that's so good.
Which is like, so it probably came out right about the time that Oliver Stone's JFK came out.
Yeah.
Right, because that's what they're
parroting.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you guys hear that leaf blower or weed eater?
No.
Okay, good. All right. Anyway, my neighbor mows like everyone's lawn on the block. So
oh wow.
He's pretty busy on Saturdays.
Wow.
All right, we're at Vidalia's number 3. We're moving right along, kids.
We really are. I have a list and then I have a list, and I'm just like, I'm tortured. I'm tortured here. But the next one is it's like a classic, and I just watched it last night. The Soup Nazi.
Oh,
it's a classic. So Mulligatawny. I never had heard that before. I was like, what is that? What?
You know, my husband and I used to tease each other in front of like the rest of my family or anybody and call each other Schmoopy. No, you're Schmoopy.
You're Schmoopy. Oh, that is so annoying. So you have the Schmoopies. And then the Soup Nazi with his very regimented, you better go in, you better know what you want, you better move to, you know what I mean? Keep the line moving. And don't ask for any bread like George did, because no soup for you, sir. But then there's also the armoire.
The robbers.
On the way for them to get soup with Elaine, she sees this armoire on the street.
Was I talking to you? Was I talking to you?
He's supposed to be Puerto Rican. That's kind of embarrassing. I think he's Puerto Rican and Cuban. That's kind of embarrassing. But
I thought he was Puerto Rican.
Yeah, he might be Puerto Rican. So she gets Kramer to babysit it because she can't move it because it's Sunday, and then it gets stolen. And then the way as the Jerry Seinfeld world turns, she does end up with an armoire that belonged to the Soup Nazi.
So she's got all the episodes. She's got all the
recipes. That's right. Yes, so good. And that's, at the very last episode where they bring back, the very last episode where they bring back all of the people that had been there and had kind of been
witnesses. Yeah, the witnesses
against them. I remember him, up there in the court talking about them, how horrible they were. So good. So good.
That was a really strong episode. It was really strong.
He was.
Yeah.
So I was a lot of my episodes were more like in the season 4, 5 kind of
early.
Yeah, kind of the season 4, 5.
I think it's because you're a teacher. You teach young kids, and you're more interested in that early development. Matt
maybe so.
He wants to see how they're already.
Maybe so.
Okay, my number 3. Some of the subplots on this one. Oh, Molly Shannon is the stiff walker. Kramer has to fire Raquel Welch.
Oh man,
cat fight. Cat fight. Is it also? No, it's not that. but it's the Tony. Well, I looked it up as the Tony, but it's the Summer of George episode.
Summer
Yeah.
of George.
But it's the Summer of George episode. I looked it up as the Tony because Kramer is a seat filler, which is a real thing at these award shows. I have like improv friends that move to LA and like take any job they can get and will get these kind of jobs like at the Grammys or wherever. And they fill seats, and Kramer gets whisked up in the crowd that won the Grammy for the Tony. Tony. Oh, what was this? I wish I would have wrote down what they won the Tony for. Here's a little side note. When George first starts the Summer of George and he's just sitting at home watching TV, he's watching episodes of The White Shadow, which is a great freaking TV show from, what is it, like the late 70s?
70s. Yeah, I remember that used to be on after school when I lived in LA.
Yeah, it's such a great show, man. It's like an LA inner city high school. And Ken Thorpe, I think that's the character. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I thought it was I think with every one of these, I looked it up under a different name, and it's like, no, it's this episode.
Absolutely.
That one, even though it's called Summer of George, it's really a Kramer episode.
Yeah, and Molly Shannon is a guest star, and it's 1995, so she'd been on Saturday Night Live for 2 seasons at that point. So Molly Shannon isn't a huge name yet, but her improv skills are just so like, and that's another thing about like Seinfeld is like Elaine comes from improv, and Kramer, Michael Richards comes from improv. Like Michael Richards, you could find stuff with Michael Richards and Andy Kaufman doing improv like in the late 70s or early 70s. I don't know what that era was, but like that's how long that like Michael Richards had been in the game, and being one of these people who just like the thing about improv is yes, and like you don't ever deny the idea that your partner throws out. You just go with it. And the same goes with Elaine. Like they're just such great reactors, because like that's kind of like one of the keys to like good improv is like how well did you react to what got thrown your way, But
why was her character in that particular episode again? Was it just because of the fact that she didn't swing her arms when she walked?
Yeah, she was a stiff walker. She
right.
Walked, yeah. And then Molly Shannon was like, well, maybe if I did this, like throw all the stuff off of her desk.
And then at the end, I feel like they're at the same therapy office, right?
Oh, I think so.
They're doing physical therapy together, Raquel Welch and Molly Shannon.
Yeah. Season 8, episode 22. Oh, get this. Original air date, May 15th, 1997. So what's that? 21 years ago today? I'm horrible at math. Or 30.
Oh, no. No, 2024, because I got married that year.
Okay. So, yeah. 24 years ago today, that episode aired.
Crazy. Oh.
Wow.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the all of those little things about the characters that just became like their thing, like Elaine shoving
shit out.
And then Kramer, of course, his entrance, right?
I just
like a thing.
I just saw the dinner party one, and it's not on my list, but it's probably in somebody's else's, but it's the one where they stop for the chocolate babka and the wine, and George has on the Gore-Tex. And then Elaine's so pissed because they have to wait so long for this babka, and then somebody else takes it, and then they got to get another one, and that one had a hair in it. So then they got to get another one, and they're just sitting there, and Elaine's pissed because they're having to wait there, but also George isn't there yet because they're held up at the wine place trying to get liquor for, and I can't remember what happened, but they were held up like they with traffic. Oh, they were blocked over. They were he knocked over one.
He knocked over some stuff. Yeah.
And then they were blocked in and they couldn't move the car. And then she says something to the effect of, or no, George is like upset and he's like, "What's wrong, George?" Kramer says, "What's wrong?" And he goes, "Well, it's just I'm a little bit afraid of Elaine." And then he goes, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, last time I did this, that, or the other. She took my Panama hat and she shoved it so far on my head that my head came out the top of it." And I can't imagine. And so then they cut to Jerry and Elaine like waiting, and they're equally as pissed. And Elaine goes, man, wait till I see George. You think that what I did with that Panama hat was bad? She goes, well, I'm going to take those 2 strings on his stupid Gore-Tex hat and squeeze him so tight and suffocate him.
Well, and she also, when he had on the hairpiece, she grabbed it from the top of his head and threw it out of Jerry's window. She's mean. She was
Oh my God.
Oh,
Of
God.
them, but
What's
she's
that?
not.
she's mean.
All right, we're at our number 4s. Matt, wait, is that where we're at?
Number 2.
Number 2.
Number 2. What am I doing with my numbers here? Oh, okay, hold on. I forgot how to count. I have 5, 4, 3, 4.
Ah,
Okay, number 2.
Okay,
Matt,
my
what is your number
has
2?
already been said by someone else. It's the Hamptons.
Well, the Hamptons.
Hampton.
Yeah.
Thanks, baby.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, we kind of talked about that one already. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure we're gonna talk about it again. Alicia, what is your number 2?
Oh, this was a good one. It's so funny because most of these, I don't even think it was in the season, but anyway, when I said before about Drake's baby and sweating from the Kung Pao and how we constantly refer to some of these taglines in these episodes, this one, I walked away with one that I feel like might have been invented on this particular episode, but it's when Elaine is dating really attractive, I can't remember who the actor is. Anyway, he's like, Jerry's like making fun of him the entire time. And he's like, it's the face. And, oh, that, are you going out with the face again or whatever? And then he coins the term mimbo. And I had never heard it before, but we use it a lot.
Mm.
And in general and culture, I feel like maybe that's where it was given birth to. But anyway, so that was one of the draws from that show. But also, I feel like this is the one where George and Kramer go mountain climbing with Elaine's boyfriend.
Yes.
And then
he falls off.
George got the baseball cap backwards afterwards.
Oh yeah. Because
And he packed sandwiches. And he packed sandwiches.
It was Dan Cortez that was the boyfriend, and he used to be on MTV, if you remember, doing all those stunt things. Anyways, it's called The Stall because the main point was I can't spare a square.
Oh my God, yes. Yes.
I think about that every time.
All the time.
Jamie
Gertz. It was Jamie Gertz.
It was Jamie Gertz?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then the third subplot was that Kramer used to call this 976 number, and that was, her voice was Erica, and he recognized her voice. And then once Elaine put 2 and 2 together, she recognized it was the voice from the other side of the stall telling her she couldn't spare a square, and then stealing the toilet paper. And it was just fun. It was the best. All 3 points were hit. And I just thought the other day, it's so funny.
Yeah. So
I've got stupid things to do, like go steal all the toilet paper. Yeah, that's a dumb move, but people do that. I mean,
I think, was his name Tony? Tony. You're gonna see Tony. I think I remember that, like Jerry doing that little motion. Tony.
No, he would pop his collar.
Yeah, pop his collar. Yeah, Tony.
That was the first one I watched when I started rewatching, and it was on my list, and fell off my list after all the rewatching. It's like, I missed an opportunity.
Oh man,
it's really good.
The homework we have to do. It's so funny. Is like maybe like 2 years ago when I started like doing my own podcast and started like getting invited to be a guest on podcasts. I was not fond of the podcast that would make you do homework. Like I'd be like, I don't want to be on that podcast. You got to make it stupid. Like, no, I don't want to be on a podcast where you have to do homework. And now, like every time, like I invite someone to be on the podcast and I send them the information, they're like, oh, I'm gonna start doing my homework right now. And I'm like, oh fuck, I've become that podcast.
You're that guy, yeah.
I've become that podcast, man. Oh, Vidalia, what is your number 2?
Okay, but I have 3 more. But I feel okay. Well, let me say this. the marine biologist was already mentioned by Matt, so I'm gonna go with a different one. The Little Kicks.
Ah, yay.
Oh,
The Little Kicks. That was later on. That was a season 8 episode. So it's the one where Elaine dances at her party that she invited George to begrudgingly. She did not want to invite him, but she did. And then everybody's making fun of her because of her crazy little kick dance.
yeah, yeah.
And in the episode, so this is funny. In the episode, they refer back when George is telling Jerry about the little kicks. There's like a scene from way long time ago because Elaine's hair is really, really different. Is when she used to do that bouffant, or I don't know what it's called, that thing.
Puffy thing.
Yeah, that thing. And they're walking in the street and she's doing that dance. So in that episode, they referred back to that other episode. You see video of it, but I don't remember watching that first one. But anyway, so at the same time, George meets a girl at the party and Elaine is warning her to stay away because he's a bad seed. He's the worst seed she's ever seen. And so George now becomes the bad boy. So that girl had not been interested in him until Elaine says that, and now he's the bad boy. And that's where Frank and Elaine have the exchange. You want a piece of me?
Oh, that's all that episode.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, because another subplot that was great. Kramer has a friend who's going into movie theaters and pirating. And so he makes Jerry do it, and Jerry does such a great job that he's like, oh, I'm going to give you this one. It's a really artful film. I want you to do it. And so Jerry is now having to go in and videotape movies for this guy who's going to kick his ass if he doesn't do it. So there's like a lot going on in this episode.
Wow.
The little kicks.
Little kick. I went to a Maggie Rogers concert a few years ago with my friend Rita, and I kept thinking of the Little Kicks episode because I had never seen so many white girls dancing badly. Then at this Maggie Rogers concert, they were just like, I thought it'd be lame the whole night. Okay, my number 2. I think Matt's favorite is George, but I think my favorite is Kramer. It's when Kramer recreates the set of the Merv Griffin show.
Oh, that was so good. And
in his living room, and that's also the episode of the Seidler, where the Seidler would just show up and would get and I've worked in offices like my whole life, and this happens so many times where like you do some decent job on something, and when you present it to your boss, somebody's standing next to you and they get credit for it too, or they add a sentence to your whole spiel and then they somehow get credit for it too. So I so empathize with being annoyed by the Seidler. But it's Kramer recreates the season 9, episode 6, original air date November 6th, 1997. Kramer finds all the junk from the Merv Griffin episode. and he starts they have an episode of and then Newman ends up, we haven't mentioned Newman.
I know.
Is that because he's just so repulsive? Even in going back
a little bit in the Keith Hernandez episode. Yeah. We mentioned a little bit with the magical movie.
You know what's so great is I think in Jerry's first stand-up special after Seinfeld, at the end of the stand-up, somebody says, "Can you do Hello Newman?" And Jerry goes into like a whole 2-minute spiel of he's like, you can't just do Hello Newman. You have to like think of someone you really hate. And you have to think, and he does this whole 2-minute lead up to how much he hated Newman and why Newman is so, and then that's when you're like, hello Newman. And he is so great. But Kramer recreating the set of the Merv Griffin show. I love it. What can I say about it? Merv Griffin show. Okay, we are at the point ladies
on,
and
Matt,
gentlemen.
hang
Oh,
on.
wait, what did I
Matt
leave
was
off?
saying something, and Matt was saying something about the Merv Griffin
Oh,
episode.
thank you.
But,
Go,
yeah,
Matt.
all the chairs smelled bad, you know.
Yeah, he's because the stars of the 70s were quite. I can't remember what he said. He said something about that they stunk or something. Like he made a reference to anyway, okay. Matt, you said you had a guest list.
Yeah. So,
So
you want Mike's list before you get
Yeah.
my number one? Okay. So like I said, me and my siblings, we'd call each other on the phone whenever Seinfeld was on, but I would always call Mike for sure, my oldest brother. And so I thought I'd better get his list for this. For Mike, his list in no particular order was the face painter.
Oh, Putty.
Yeah, Putty.
Buddy.
The opposite, where George would follow the opposite of his instincts.
Uh-huh.
The strike.
That was probably one of my also.
That was on one of mine too.
The voice, with Cream Erica, and the bottle deposit. They had that scheme in all those bottles.
Yes, they rented a truck.
Yeah,
right? And they're trying to get to some other state where they could redeem them for more money. They're trying to swim. They're trying to
catch this fire.
Yeah, it was Kramer and Newman. Yeah. The strike. The strike, is that where we get Festivus? I think so. Yeah, the strike is where we get Festivus.
It is.
And Jesse, you mentioned Jerry's special. I saw him live.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Oh my God. So good.
Was it when he came to Bakersfield? When he came to Bakersfield?
No, I saw him at Long Beach. And so I remember at the end of his show, some people were like calling out, and they were, of course, asking him questions about the show, Seinfeld. This was probably, I want to say like 2014 or 15. So it had been a long time since it had ended. And he said kind of like the same thing. He's like, you can't just fall into it. Like you have to, work your way up, and you have to put yourself there. You got to think about, because it seems so natural for them, right? Even though he wasn't an actor, because that's something that they have, Jerry and Julia Louis-Dreyfus have said, like in interviews. I just heard a podcast with her the other day where they say, he wasn't an actor. So many times you could see him like almost breaking, like he's holding in his laughter so hard because he's not a trained actor. It's not what he did. But everything seemed so natural for him. Like he was so natural in that role, but I guess because he was playing himself.
Yeah.
Probably. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so good. That's a good, your brother had a good list there. But yeah, the strike was on one of that was on my second list.
Yeah. Did you finish the list? I couldn't remember. Was that everything?
Yeah,
Was that?
I gave you his whole list.
Okay. All right. Okay. I of course went to Facebook and I asked some of my friends, and let's see here. Okay. Alicia, you know my friend Cynthia Aguirre.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cynthia Aguirre.
Yeah.
Elaine's mannequin was creepy. The Junior Mints. Dolores.
Yeah. Dolores.
And Ass Man.
That was Fusilli Jerry.
Fusilli Jerry. That is one of the funniest episodes ever. Yes.
My old team lead, Ivan Para, Real Cubans, Low Flow Showerhead, Mulva, which is
the same.
Which is
Dolores. Yeah, which is Dolores. Kenny Rogers Chicken, Soup Nazi, and he says so many good ones. Let's see. I asked for Seinfeld and Disney in the same thread this time because I was lazy. Rhonda Nichols says Man Hands, the turkey one.
Man Hand.
No soup for you. She said I don't know the name of the episodes. And Mary Poppins. Oh no, that's okay. We always got to give a shout out to Sarah Aga Bahamadi. Her top Seinfelds are Germaphobe, Festivus, the car dealership. No one, well, we don't know yet, but no one has mentioned the contest so far.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and then she said her number one is the one where Raquel Welch, Molly Shannon don't swing their arms. And let's see, that is Lindsay Dibbin says the Chinese restaurant, the contest, the soup Nazi, the switch, and
The switch.
the chicken.
That was good.
burger. And that is it.
Jesse, you were mentioning the dates that they came out. I remember taking a lot of classes at night at Cal State during that time.
Ah.
And I scheduled my school schedule around
Yeah, that's what we used to have to do. We didn't have DVR, we didn't have YouTube,
Yeah.
we didn't have Hulu,
There was no DVDs. There was no.
Yeah,
You couldn't get it by YouTube. Yeah. So I was like, well, Thursday night classes are out. Can't do it. Can't do it.
Okay, do we want to try to do our also rans? Matt, you got some also rans?
I have some also rans.
Every time.
But I won't go into any details on them though, but the pick,
The
right?
pick.
Also ran for me. The outing, which is the one where the reporter thinks that that George and Jerry are a couple.
Okay.
Oh,
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
And Merv Griffin.
And Merv Griffin?
Also rans.
Yeah. Alicia, do you have some also rans?
I had a lot, but the ones that haven't, well, I had Fusili, Jerry, and Junior Mint almost made it.
Yes.
Here. And then the face painter, the Chinese restaurant, the parking garage, marine biologist, puffy shirt, and soup Nazi have already been mentioned. And the one that I really, two of them that I really super liked was the one called The Fire with Kathy Griffin. Is that George runs out on that birthday party and tramples all the women and children. Yes. And then that's also the same episode where Kathy Griffin is heckling Jerry. So that was a good episode. Yeah. And then the one with, it's called The Betrayal. And it's when Elaine thinks that she's been invited to Sue Ellen Mishke's wedding in India because she knows that she's not going to go, and she freaking goes. She's like buying her ticket already to India. And she's like the only person from America that bothered to show up to her Indian wedding, who, by the way, she's marrying an ex-boyfriend of Elaine's, and he used to go by Peter. Well, it turns out his name is now Pinter, and maybe that was always his name, but when she saw his name on the invitation, she didn't realize that she was marrying one of her exes. So that's like another subplot, but it was really funny. And anything when they get to put Sue Ellen Mishke in makes me laugh, because she was such a thorn in Elaine's side, the heiress to the O. Henry fortune.
Yes.
I was just thinking of her.
She was the braless wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kramer almost wrecks as she's walking down the street and her jacket's open.
And then Elaine gets her a bra and she wears it as a shirt.
Yes. Because she's also trash, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had those. And then the Cadillac, when Jerry gave a Cadillac to his parents, and then all the little people in Boca Raton thought that they were like drug dealers or like thugs, or like Jerry was doing something shifty. And also that's the one with Marissa Tomei.
Oh, where she thinks George is cute.
Yeah, somehow. And then he's already like with his fiance, and he's trying to find ways to go and meet Marissa Tomei.
Yeah. Gosh.
But yeah, those. And I also had the Merv Griffin show and the Opposite Show.
I think Vidalia, did you do your also rans?
Not yet.
How much time do you need?
I know, 45 minutes. No, the Sponge.
Yes.
The Rye.
Yes.
The Yada Yada.
I mentioned the lobster bisque.
And then some have already been mentioned. The Strike, the Serenity Now, Fusilli Jerry. That was actually the first episode that I thought of to put on the list.
Uh-huh.
So because that's Ass Man. That's the Ass Man episode. And then the Junior Mint was this close.
Ass Man.
Ass Man.
You guys already mentioned almost all of my also rants, so I'm just gonna keep it short because I do this all the time of like, why don't you just tell me the name of the movie you want to see? What's the one? What episode is that where Kramer is doing the voice for the movie phone?
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, I don't
have that one.
Yeah. I remember that. I remember that.
He's like, why don't you just tell me the name of the movie you want to see? You guys like this generation does not know what it was like to call the movies and wait to
On
see
the phone.
what time the movie.
Man.
Yeah, because you couldn't find a newspaper. It was like somebody threw away the newspaper. Oh man.
Really quick, I don't think anybody mentioned the Fusilli Jerry episode was the same episode that where Putty stole his move,
Yes.
It was a swirl.
the swirl.
Swirl.
And then also the stop short was in that episode too.
Oh.
That Kramer stopped short on Costanza, Mrs. Costanza.
When she was getting her eyes done.
Her eyes done.
Yeah. She's out there now, and George is like, "You're not out there. You can't be out there now because I'm out there now, right? If you're out there, yeah."
Okay. All right. So now our number one. Dun dun dun. Matt, what is your number one Seinfeld episode?
My number one, and mainly because it's still culturally significant every year, is the strike.
Strike.
Festivus, the Human Fund. Where
Yes.
the sleaziest thing yet. Where he's giving out donations in people's names to the Human Fund.
The Human Fund.
Oh, God.
And when we found out Kramer had a job and he was on strike all this time. Right.
At the ice cream shop, right?
Yeah.
The bagel shop.
Bagel shop.
The bagel shop.
Oh, the bagel shop. The bagel
Yeah.
shop.
But yeah, George's boss makes him take him to Festivus dinners. It's great. And then he recognizes Kramer there as a callback from another episode where he thought Kramer was a dermatologist.
Gosh.
So good.
I forgot one of my also rants. Did we mention it? The marble rye?
Yeah, that was the rye. Yeah, the rye.
Okay, the rye. Okay. All right. All right.
When
So
he
the
gets it
strike
into
is
the
next.
apartment, right? He has to get it up to the apartment from the outside. Yeah.
Alicia, what is your number one?
Well, I also think this is like kind of relatable nowadays with misappropriation, cultural misappropriation, or what do they call it? But Jesse, you were just in my backyard a couple days ago and we were talking about this episode, but it's the cigar store Indian.
Oh, yes.
So Elaine and the guys there at George's house because his parents went out of town, and George is nutting up because Jerry keeps putting his coffee cup on the coffee table and he has to take it to the store to get refinished before his parents get back. But then that's going to make Elaine late to something, her girls' poker night. And so then she has to take the subway, but she's got nothing to read. So then she picks up the TV guide that's on the table, and she has no idea that his dad collects them or whatever. And so she takes it, and then she goes on the subway and she's reading it. And then some guy like approaches her and she's just like, "Here, have it. I'm out." And so then he thinks that she lives at that address that's on the Costanza's mailing list label. And so then Jerry feels bad because they fought about the subway and whatever. And he goes to this store with George to get the table refinished and buys the cigar store Indian. And he thinks he's going to give it as a peace offering to Elaine because he felt bad. But he also wants to go to the poker game because her girlfriend Winona is going to be there. And he wants to hook up with Winona's, but so he goes in and gives it to her and starts, "Look, oh, this is a peace offering. Look, hiya, 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 hiya." And he doesn't know that Winona's freaking Indian or Native American. And so she gets up and leaves, and Elaine goes, "I can't believe you just did that." And he goes, "Just did what?" She goes, "Winona is Native American." And then he feels horrible and he wants to call her up and apologize because he's not like that. He's not a racist. He's not this or that. And so then he goes over to her house and tries to talk to her on the speakerphones. I guess they have them all over New York, whatever.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, I'll come down. And then he's like, look, let me make it up to you. We'll go have some dinner. What do you feel about that? And what's around here? And so then he turns around to the mailman and he goes, hey, do you know of any good Chinese restaurants around here? And then the mailman turns around and goes, oh, you think just because I'm Chinese, I'm going to know where all the Chinese restaurants are? And then he gets so red in the face. I didn't know you were Chinese. You had your back turned. I just thought you knew because you knew the area. And then she's like, no, this is a bad idea. I'm out. But before she can go inside, Kramer takes that Indian off of Elaine's hands and drives by, and he's all, look, Jerry. Oh. Look what I just scored. Ooh. And she's like, oh my God. And so she goes up, and then Jerry's still feeling bad. And so they end up finally getting to a point where she agrees to go out with him. So then he goes and picks her up. And then he says, oh, I got this, we're going to go eat at this really great restaurant. She goes, oh my gosh, how can you get in? That's a really nice restaurant. And he goes, well, I made I made some plans for our accommodations because he doesn't want to say reservation. And then he goes, oh, and afterwards we have courtside seats to the Nets game, and we're going to go and see them right on the floor or whatever. And she goes, oh, that's awesome. How did you score those tickets? And he goes, well, I got them on the street from a guy that sells tickets. So
yeah, once again, like,
everything
the writing was just like, yeah.
Right. And then, but before it's all over, she ends up like giving him the TV guide, but then she needs it back for an interview that she's doing or a report that she's doing. And so she asks for the TV guide back, and he goes, I can't get it back to you. I already gave it to Elaine. And he goes, what are you? Some kind of, and then he stops. And she goes, some kind of what? And then he goes, some kind of person that gives things and takes them back.
Oh yeah.
She goes, say it. And so an Indian giver, and then she like storms out, and then the whole thing at the end on the subway with Al Roker to wrap it up in a nice neat bow. It was just top to bottom. I laughed out loud the entire time I see that episode, every single time.
Yeah.
Like start to finish. It's my favorite.
And
the whole episode. You did a recap of the whole episode.
the guy who she gives a TV guide to, he's the one who ends up making a mannequin that looks like her, right? Like Elaine.
Oh, he takes apart the TV guide and makes it into a bouquet.
Oh, bouquet. Okay. I thought it was the same guy. I thought it was the same guy that had turned into it in a different episode.
He was totally psycho. And then it ends up that him and Mr. Costanza both collect TV guides.
Oh my
and
God.
they both have all these like collections and boxes. He was really creepy, just like Mr. Costanza, turns out. But anyway, that's my fave.
Vidalia, what is your number one?
Season 4, episode 11, The Contest.
The
The master of your domain. The queen of the castle.
Who was the first one out of the contest?
Kramer.
Yeah.
Like this, because the girl across the street is naked.
Yeah, he just comes in, he slaps the money on the guy. I'm out.
We're out already. And then you got Elaine went down because of John.
Yeah, she saw JFK Jr. working out.
Yeah, he worked out next to her, and then he asked about her, and he was gonna, they were gonna link up, and so that was just too much. So she's out, and then in the episode of the puffy shirt, later on, next season, we find out finally George talks to the guy that he's modeling his hands for, and he said he won a contest one time because the guy told them in that other episode, he came back, that guy asked him, you need to be careful with your hands, don't be like so-and-so. It was another hand model who no woman could match his hands, and so his hands were overused. He was not master of his domain, and so his hands ended up getting all messed up. And so George was like, oh, no worries, I won a contest one time. So we finally get the answer the next season over, because at the end of the contest, we didn't know if it was Jerry or if it was George
Mhm.
who was out. So anyway, so the contest.
The contest.
So he was treating his, he was going to treat his body like an amusement park.
Like an amusement park. Well, everybody had something, right? So Jerry is dating the virgin. There's a naked girl across the street. George is going to visit his mom in the hospital, who was put in traction because she caught him. And
treating
then
his body like an amusement park.
gorgeous nurse is giving the girl next door a sponge bath. So George is going nutty over that. So yeah, everybody had something. That was funny.
Oh my gosh, that's a classic.
Good. So good and so bad.
Yeah. Okay, so my number one, and I think it's because I think like Elaine's character like really was like one of the great women characters of the 90s, because like she dated, she had flings, she had a successful job, like she just was everything that like we hadn't really seen a lot of in sitcoms at that point. Like we'd seen like a successful woman in a sitcom, but we hadn't seen a successful woman who like just dated and like had fun and like, you know, hooked up and like wasn't ashamed of it. Like it wasn't like oh, but the Spongeworthy episode is my number one, because it just really showcases Elaine at her finest. I mean, and it's also the one where Jerry cops the girl's phone number from the AIDS walk list, and then Kramer refuses to wear the ribbon at the AIDS walk and meets up with the street toughs again.
Oh, yeah. The tough customers.
Yeah. George, like, it shows like a little bit of how horrible George is, because they're talking about birth control and they're like, well, what does Susan use? And George is like, I don't know, she uses something. He doesn't know what his fiance uses for birth control. And then she's like, you don't know what I use, do you? And he's like, and then we find out that George can't use a condom because it takes too long to open the package. And it happens. And I think of that every time I have to open. Never mind. Anyway, that talk about callbacks. All right, like that happens, man. And then what else? So then Elaine denies George a sponge. Like he tries to go to Elaine's house. Elaine's interviewing a guy to see if he's sponge worthy, and she's and he's like, you know, I have a good job. I work out. She's like, your bathroom's like clean. I cleaned it this morning. She's like, sideburns, I'll shave them today. What else? Out of the that was season 7, episode 9, original air date December 7th, 1995. Spongeworthy. Elaine Bennis, queen, lover. All right.
Well, that's kind of sucky because we all have different number ones. Like all our number ones are different.
Yeah, I don't know. So did anything get mentioned twice? The Hamptons?
The Hamptons is mentioned twice.
The Hamptons got mentioned twice. I keep misspelling the Hamptons.
Soup Nazi, I think. Soup Nazi?
Did Soup Nazi get mentioned twice? Soup Nazi got...
Oh, no, marine biologist. Was it marine biologist?
Kind of.
Dahlia was gonna use marine biology.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was on my
marine
also.
biologist was in my also rams.
It's mine too. Yeah.
Okay, so marine biologist.
I feel like we talked about the strike more than once and the Fusili Jerry, but they weren't in the top.
Okay, so can you repeat the top fives just really quickly? Because I'm like forgetting.
Matt, marine biologist, The Voice, Serenity Now, The Hamptons, The Strike. Alicia, The Jimmy, The Hamptons, The Boyfriend, The Stall, Cigar Store Indian. Vidalia, The Pig, The Puffy Shirt, Soup Nazi, Elaine Dances or Little Kicks, and The Contest. Me, The Raincoats, The Understudy, Summer of George, Merv Griffin, and Spongeworthy. I don't know, guys.
We have a 20.
I don't know. Yeah, so we have a top 20 where we're gonna rank these. I almost feel like we're gonna get booed if we don't include. Okay, what I don't know. I kind of want the Soup Nazi to be in the top 5. But does it deserve to be in the top
I
5?
just wanted to say that that would be an obvious choice, that and marine biologist. So people might actually riot if we don't put him in the top 5.
Okay,
but
so
I didn't, the reason that it was in my alsos just because I felt like it would be represented in some form.
yeah, so I think
But it's on my alsos. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely on my alsos.
Okay, so that kind of makes it easier. So now we have the Hamptons, marine biologist, Soup Nazi, the strike.
Hey,
What-
we're still saying Happy Festivus all these years later.
and that's from the
Yeah.
strike, right?
The strike.
Okay. One more.
Well,
I
the
really-
stall is the one where people say a lot of "I can't spare a square," or I mean, I feel like it that was the takeaway.
Yeah, what are some big takeaways?
Also in the Cigar Store Indian, that was the one where Kramer did the coffee table book.
About coffee table.
Coffee table.
And then he was on Regis and Kathy Lee at the end, and then he popped it open and it made an actual little coffee table.
He's like, look, it's a little coffee table.
I forgot to mention that. That was in my notes. But yeah, I don't know. The stall, the magic bullet one with the boyfriend.
What about the contest? It's kind of like a classic.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I didn't put it on mine as well, is because I felt like it would be on somebody's.
Okay, so that makes sense. Okay. All right, so look, we have 5 with the Hamptons, marine biologist, Soup Nazi, the strike, the contest.
We got to put the stall as our like honorable mention though, because the stall that's an amazing episode. I shouldn't have left it off.
Yeah.
Stall. Okay, so the stall is an also
agree.
ran.
And Fusili Jerry for sure. Fusili Jerry.
Lucille Jerry.
I'm not even gonna try to spell Facili Jerry. Facili Jerry.
Fusilli.
Fu. Fu. What? Fu what?
Fusilli.
That makes no sense. Okay.
Fusili.
Facili Jerry. If those are also ran, so then do we want to say gosh. Okay, I'm gonna say number 5 is the Hamptons. Now just argue with me though. I want to say number 5, the Hamptons, number 4, marine biologist, number 3, the strike, number 2, the contest, and number 1, Soup Nazi.
See, what's funny to me also is that Chinese restaurant wasn't mentioned, nor was the parking garage. And I feel like those are like people's, like, those are the ones that they think of first.
Put them
But
on the
they,
map, yeah.
What
yeah,
else happens in the parking garage?
other than they're like walking around in
They're-
circles.
The
Yeah.
entire time. That was the quintessential "it's a show about nothing" episode. Like it's literally a show about nothing. They are sitting there. Same with the Chinese restaurant. They're sitting there waiting the entire time. But it's
Right.
totally relatable. It's totally relatable. Yeah.
I was just wondering why the Hamptons was number 5. I felt like it was on somebody else's list, not just mine.
Okay, where do you want to put the Hamptons? This isn't going to be easy.
I would put the Hamptons all the way up to 3 and move the other 2 down.
Okay, so marine biologist is 5. Okay, hold on. Let me. So here we go. Okay,
Now, what was the other one? Okay.
so 5 marine biologists. 4,
The strike.
the strike.
3, the Hamptons. 2, the contest. And 1, the Soup Nazi. Is that the way you had said it before?
Yeah.
I didn't write down the numbers. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so marine biologist, the strike, the Hamptons, the contest, the soup Nazi.
I'm happy with that.
The sea was angry that day, my friends.
Like an old man trying to send soup back at the deli.
I think that's the most of mine that have ever gotten into the final list.
I don't think any of mine got in the final list. I don't care though. I just wanted to talk about them.
It was 10 feet if it was an inch. What an idiot.
He's
Now
such
you can hear the weed blower now, right?
No,
No?
I
Okay.
don't hear it.
I think I could hear
I
it.
don't hear it.
God, it's annoying. Anyway, all right, we did it. I don't know do we know what we're doing next? We don't, huh? We don't have a next. Matt is gonna be on top 5 REM songs or top 5 U2 songs, or both.
Hopefully, I think I'm on both.
Are you on both? Okay, yeah. Alicia, you're gonna be on top 5 alternative albums of the 90s.
I don't think we've given it a title yet, but we're definitely reconvening.
Yeah. Vidalia, you're not on anything.
You haven't given me a job.
Yeah.
You did Prince without me, which I'm still hurt over.
Calm down. He didn't do Michael Jackson.
If you do MJ without me, I'm breaking up with you. We're done. It's over.
So that's all I need to do?
That's all you need to do.
Hey guys, I gotta take off.
Okay, Matt's gotta go. That's a great way to end it. Thanks
Bye,
for
guys.
saving it, Matt.
Bye.
It was good seeing you guys. Take care.
This was fun.
Yeah.